Please welcome our panelists.
I've noticed a mistake in the law. Good mistake, Harry. No.
I got a drink.
We have two more of our advisory board members here, and Alana, your tax specialist, so the Americans for Prosperity. Let's kick this right off. I mean, obviously, we have a tremendous new tax bill that is designed to promote innovation and investment in this country. Why don't you give us a little overview of how the big, beautiful bill will impact South Carolina? And obviously, crypto is a specific area, but this has legs, multiple legs. So let me hand it off to you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. So the One Big Beautiful Bill makes several changes and also makes several components of its predecessor, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was passed during President Trump's first term, permanent. So first of all, the first thing it does on the corporate side, which impacts businesses across the country and in South Carolina, is that it makes the lower corporate tax rate of 21% permanent. So the U.S. used to have the highest corporate tax rate, federal corporate tax rate in basically the entire Western world. It used to be 35%, way higher than any European country. In 2017, that was lowered to 21%, and the One Big Beautiful Bill makes that 21% rate permanent, which doesn't make the U.S. the best necessarily in terms of corporate tax rates, but definitely gets us out of that top spot and really improves our standing in the global corporate tax world. The second thing that the One Big Beautiful Bill does, and this is really important for innovation and also really kind of capital intensive businesses, which I think a lot of you, data mining and data centers and mining, all that, this is very capital intensive, is that it makes permanent, I should say, full expensing, but bonus depreciation, that being able to deduct your capital expenses when you buy capital in your business, it makes that that provision permanent. So in the past, before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, businesses would buy physical capital, and they would only be able to deduct a portion of that each year. And physical capital depreciates, right? It loses value over time. It starts to break down. Things need to be repaired. It loses value over time, and so you would never be able to. Businesses would not be able to deduct the full amount that they paid for that. Because they would have to deduct the amount over time, and capital depreciates. So under the One Big Beautiful Bill, we now have bonus depreciation, full expensing. You can deduct the amount that businesses pay for that capital. In the first year, they can deduct the full amount, and so there isn't really an issue of depreciation anymore because you're able to deduct the full amount in year one. That's at the federal level. South Carolina does not have that at the state level. So any South Carolina businesses, whether they're in the crypto or digital currency world or not, they have that benefit when they file their federal corporate taxes, but they don't have that benefit when they file their South Carolina state corporate taxes. And so that's an area where South Carolina can improve. Our AFP state chapters in other states like Oklahoma and Mississippi have passed permanent bonus depreciation, permanent full expensing at the state level in those states, and South Carolina really should follow suit. So that's a second benefit of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And then the third benefit when it comes to innovation is, again, making like research and development expensing permanent as well. So being able to deduct those research and development.
Maybe you'd rather have Cole first. But anyway, what interests me about it, in a way, a story I use sometimes related to something that was said earlier, actually, is you can look at a supercomputer back in 1979, and that supercomputer was really big. It had to be at 65 degrees, always, to operate. The phone I have in my pocket is 25 times more powerful than that computer was. You know, so if you think about the computers when they went to the moon, they were nothing compared to what the one you have in your pocket. And cryptocurrencies and blockchain and all of that have similar characteristics. You know, I tell people, you know, part of what people worry about with it is they say, well, you know, Bitcoin, what's it good for? What am I going to use it for? Is it just an investable asset? But then it's not like stocks, it's not like capital in a company. And the answer to that, for me anyway, is look, like the computer, you don't know where it's going. You know, you may have some idea where it's going to go over the next year or two. But where it's going to be 5 years from now, we don't know. That is, innovations are going to happen, they're going to create uses and other things that we don't really know anything about right now. I mean, there are other uses actually, without getting into that. But, so that's part of what interests me, is because it's this whole process, and you don't really know where it's going.
I promised Jennifer that we wouldn't talk dirty up here, so I wanted, Patrick mentioned mining, and I just want to extrapolate on that just a little bit for anybody that doesn't understand what mining is. We'll just brief explanation as transaction verification. Bitcoin mining is typically individual servers which do one thing basically, which is to attempt to solve the problem of what the next block, the equation that links one block of transactions to the next block, and that provides an immutable record. Mining can be done at home with a simple BitAxe, a small little device that you can put on your desk, or it can be done in large industrial complexes that are really designed specifically for that purpose. And there are a number of benefits to the electrical grid, but obviously that type of investment is specifically is what is going to be impacted by the big beautiful bill. So, Ilana, if you could perhaps give us some other areas that I believe there's the question of crypto mining and taxation on rewards. Is that an area you're comfortable with, or Patrick, or is that an area you want to discuss? Or?
What specifically is your question?
Well, as far as the bill and and taxation on the rewards that come from mining. I mean, anybody can mine basically by buying or participating in a service. What you do is actually you buy machines and you have them located in specific mining operations, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way the taxes work now is just like if you bought a bond, it's considered it's considered the equivalent of like interest income. So it's taxed at short-term capital gains.
Yeah, and a lot of, I'm curious, I mean, how is there a way through our tax policy really to ensure that innovation just doesn't benefit big corporations, but how it helps small businesses and families?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Jerry was mentioning just a couple minutes ago, and as was also mentioned in the first panel, we don't know what the next innovation is going to be in any sector of our economy. And so another handout that I have on the tables around you guys is AFP's 4 big tax principles. Simple. We want taxes to be simple and transparent. So low taxes, flat rate, or ideally eliminate the tax. Very transparent, so you know what you're paying, how much you're paying, where that money's going. We want taxes to be neutral. So again, we don't want government to benefit one sector of the economy or one business, big business, over any other sector of the economy or any other business. We want, again, to that point, we want taxes to be impartial and not benefit one group of people or one business over another. And we also want them to be predictable and long-term. And those last 3 points, neutrality, impartiality, and predictability, I think are really important from a tax perspective at the state level and the federal level to ensure that you have innovation, to ensure that small businesses and startups can come, and so that whether it's the South Carolina tax code or the federal tax code is not just
Our business
benefiting
model
one
is
business or
import
one sector,
opportunity to export
that
inflation.
crowds out private
This is just
investment,
a
that crowds out
continuation
new
of that.
startups,
In addition,
and
it's
new
an extension
innovation.
of foreign
And
policy
that also is
because it
not
gets
good for
more dollars
taxpayers,
into
because this is essentially
And
taxpayers,
some
South
people really need
Carolinians,
those dollars.
subsidizing
Currencies are
either one business or one sector of the
much
economy, and so that's wasting South Carolinians taxpayer
Well,
dollars,
fine,
and
fine,
that's,
thoughts?
you know, your hard-earned income. And so for
I mean,
all of
I
the
would just say
reasons,
to
the
my
tax
point
code should be,
earlier,
that is South Carolina and really the entire country can do for innovation, and this has been said by Jerry and by panelists in the previous panel, is again, just getting government out of the way, whether that's through removing red tape, whether that's removing government distortions in the tax code, both federal, state, and local. I mean, if you want innovation, if you want the free market to flourish, that is what you can do to make that happen. And I would also say to that tax expenditures, basically spending through the tax code, subsidies or for different businesses or different industries in the tax code. That is government intervention, that is distorting the market, and that is also an impediment to allowing startups and innovation to come about in South Carolina. So removing not just what I think is like traditionally thought of as government intervention, but also the barriers to innovation that some might see as, oh, this is a tax break, and that's good policy. That is actually a hindrance to innovation. In fact, is a hindrance to innovation.
Jared, final thought?
I'm going to second everything that they've said. But I'm going to do a little more than that. I'm going to say something that South Carolina can do that goes beyond this is by explicitly going in and working on the state taxes code so that it recognizes digital assets and doesn't leave it up to individual judges to decide how existing law applies to digital assets. And so it introduces predictability, which people in business really want predictability, really bad. One of the things I didn't realize initially was, like people who run exchanges, you think, well, they don't want government regulation. Good grief, they just want to be able to do what they want to do. The answer is no. Why? Because they figure they're going to get regulated sooner or later. And if it's sooner, then at least they know what it is and they can live with it and they can work with it. And so predictability is very important. Digital assets are different. And so it's going to occur differently to different judges about exactly how existing law applies. And so if you write this into the tax code, then it introduces a degree of predictability and consistency that would not otherwise exist. So that's...
Yeah, no, predictability is, pass that down to Jennifer. Predictability is what it's all about from a regulatory standpoint. And if you go back to the report, the BTC report, we have 5 bills that are currently filed in the General Assembly. Elevating that to a level of urgency with our lawmakers is really the key to making this happen. We have 1 session left of a 2-year session. We have we'll get into more detail of this in our final final panel. But obviously, if we want to attract the best and the brightest in this industry, making it easy and predictable for them to understand what happens in South Carolina stays in South Carolina. Essentially, that's how we bring them in. That's what brought the world to Wyoming. The flyover state that has decided to be the next digital capital empire of the country, and they're working diligently to do so. That's what's happening in Florida. That's what's happening in North Carolina. That's what's happening in Texas. It needs to happen in South Carolina.